Hey everybody, Alex the Critic here, and it's once again time for me to rip into a stupid video that I found on the internet. This is Cancerous Commentaries. If, for some reason, you clicked on this video without reading the title, this is actually part 2 of a commentary that I made back in Christmas of 2024. That commentary was on a video made by a left-wing political commentator named Amazing Atheist, or TJ Kirk, which itself was a response to another video made by a right-wing political commentator named Michael Knowles that concerned an incident in which a drag queen who was dressed in sexually provocative clothing danced sexually in front of children at a pride event. For those of you who haven't watched my previous commentary, or who can't be bothered to go back and watch it, I'll give you a brief summation of what that response was like.
Amazing Atheist spent the majority of the video dismissing Michael's concerns over what the drag queen did with fallacious reasoning, most infamously whataboutism.
Say what you want about these MAGA people. It's not like they would have like a bunch of like thong-clad women in front of their kids. Oh wait, oops, what's this? I mean, if you need more examples, how about this? I mean, we are like an inch away from that girl's pussy right now. This is a fucking Dallas Cowboys cheerleader doing a routine in front of a giant crowd. Throngs of thousands of fucking people, including a bunch of little ass goddamn kids wearing way the fuck less than that drag queen was a second ago, and we are inches away from seeing her goddamn cunny right there. Boom. And this is okay. Hooters has a kids menu. Remember the Hooters kids menu? Right there. Right there, folks. Right there for your fucking enjoyment.
At the same time, he also outright denied that what this particular drag queen did was sexual in nature and thus constituted child sex abuse, without ever actually explaining why he denied that claim. Sure, TJ says that neither the outfit the drag queen was wearing nor the dances they were performing were obscene.
They act like what they're fucking scandalized by is that there's like some sort of sexual display going on in front of these damn kids. But clearly that's not it. Not to mention, what about this dance is sexual? I mean, I think just the fact that the outfit is skimpy.
But one, if you've actually seen the clip, you'd know that is an outright lie, and two, he never elaborates as to how the drag queen wasn't being obscene, so it's a moot point either way.
Overall, Amazing Atheist's arguments were, at best, a clumsy attempt at drawing a distinction between your average cross-dresser and child predators, and at worst, an unabashed defense of child sexual abuse. If you'd like to experience the full scope of TJ's stupidity, I'll leave a link to my previous commentary in the description down below. Now, here's what some of y'all are definitely thinking right about now. Alex, if you've already destroyed this video, then why is there a second part to this commentary? Well, my friends, it's because I wasn't the only one who took issue with this particular video from TJ.
Another right-wing political commentator named NUCLEAR GRIFTER also didn't take too kindly to TJ's piss-poor attempts at debunking Michael Knowles' arguments, and he would take on said attempts in a response video of his own titled The Amazing Atheist Defends Child Abuse. This response would draw the ire of the man himself, and TJ subsequently uploaded a video tackling NUCLEAR GRIFTER titled This is the Worst YouTuber.
And if you thought that Amazing Atheist's response to Michael Knowles was bad, then oh boy, y'all have no idea of the levels of retardation that I'm about to expose y'all to. Now, before I start covering this video, there are 4 important things that I've got to get out of the way. Firstly, as was the case with the last video I covered, this video is actually an edited down portion of a much longer livestream that TJ hosted on his channel. However, given that TJ edited this clip himself and posted it to his channel, I'm going to assume it's because he chose to highlight the best arguments that he had against Nuclear Grifter, and thus will not be covering whatever else he said about him in the full stream. Anybody complaining about cut context can take it up with TJ. Secondly, Nuclear Grifter's initial response to Amazing Atheist has unfortunately been struck down, and I was unable to find a backup of it anywhere on the internet. This means that some of the context behind Nuclear Grifter's arguments have unfortunately been lost to time, and I'll have to infer what he was trying to say from TJ's response to him. Thirdly, while I will be defending Nuclear Grifter in this commentary, and I do ultimately side with him and Michael Knowles on this issue, I do not agree with everything that he said, and will be throwing some criticism his way as well. Fourthly, Nuclear Grifter made his own response to TJ's video on him, and so if I think that he's made a better point against what TJ says than I could have made, I'll just play the relevant clip from his response instead. With all of that out of the way, now we can finally get the show on the road. Editor, you know what to do.
Testing, 1, 2. Is this thing on? I'm not gonna...
So, first of all, if you're gonna get an RE20, get a fucking stand for it. Don't hold it in your fucking hands. It's not supposed to be a handheld mic. Show some respect for your equipment. That's an expensive microphone. You should treat it commensurate with the value that it represents. Second of all, if you're gonna be a green screen guy, maybe get some defrizzer for that hair, because it's pretty messy back there. You know, getting all that artifacting going on in the frizz.
You know you're in for a really good video full of constructive, thought-provoking criticism when the first argument that TJ ever makes is about how Nuclear Grifter's video looks and not what Nuclear Grifter is actually saying.
Third of all, I guess, if you're going to make videos in general, maybe, I don't know, don't be a stupid piece of shit.
Pot meet kettle.
Gonna pretend that TJ Kirk, otherwise known as the Amazing Atheist, is even remotely relevant anymore.
The classic, you're so irrelevant, I'm gonna spend 24 minutes and 2 seconds talking about you.
I don't even understand the point being made here. Making a video on someone who you think is irrelevant doesn't mean that you secretly think that person is relevant.
I don't understand the irrelevancy argument in the first place, because, like, is it a prerequisite for this guy that he'll only talk to relevant people?
Even if it was, who gives a fuck? All Nuclear Grifter did was make an acerbic jab about the low views that your videos get nowadays. Move on to the fucking arguments.
And by the way, if I'm irrelevant, then this guy doesn't even exist. Been featured on Joe Rogan twice. Been featured on CNN one time. I don't know, I feel like I've earned a lifetime supply of relevancy from my exploits. Even if I were to die tomorrow, I would be relevant for at least a decade or two to come.
Firstly, getting featured on relevant platforms a grand total of 3 times does not necessarily make you relevant, especially so when those appearances occurred years and years ago, as is the case with TJ. Secondly, again, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? Who cares if Grifter thinks that you're irrelevant?
His channel for the first time in like 5 years or something, and he just had the dumbest, most delusional...
I don't believe for a second, by the way, that, you know, you just happened, after 5 years of totally ignoring the Amazing Atheist, I just happened to decide, hey man, what's going on with that channel? And when I went by, what should I see but, you know, some blatant fodder for me to exploit for content on my channel. Holy shit, wow. Bullshit. No one buys that shit. Be honest, you've been watching my shit for a while now.
Okay, even if he has, for the final time, what is the point? Nuclear Grifter isn't even making any arguments right now. He's just setting up how his video came to be. Move on to the points.
Fancy living, here we come.
Like, what people are we talking about here? And of course, it's
Pedophiles, groomers, some, you know, people I'm sure TJ Kirk can sympathize with.
exactly who you think. Right. So already just throwing it out there like, you know, pedophiles and shit, you know, kind of people TJ Kirk likes, you know what I mean?
I would be a lot more sympathetic to TJ's point here if he hadn't said in his last video that parents should be allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to do with their kids.
That would make us no different from the liberals. You see, if I arrest child predators who prance around half naked in front of 5-year-olds, that
Child predators, eh? It's crazy how brazen child predators have gotten, you know? Because it seems like there's like a bunch of adults there right now that have brought their own kids here and have like decided like, yes, this is appropriate for my kids, in the same way that plenty of people have decided that this is appropriate for their kids, and this is appropriate for their kids, and this is appropriate for their kids. It seems like a bunch of adults decided, hey, this is fine for my kids, I don't care. You know, it seems like that's not really predation at that point. That's just people making a decision about what kind of content their kids are allowed to consume.
Sure, TJ may not like pedophiles, but by making arguments like that, he is enabling what they're doing. So what difference does it make?
It's, you know, drag queens and transgender people and stuff like that. So
That's exactly what I just said.
So yeah, we're only 49 seconds in, and he's already directly, not even in any ambiguous terms, directly correlates like gay and trans people, pedophiles. Not even using the little coded language, not even be like, we're just concerned that there might be some groomers. No, just blatant, outright, all gay and trans people are pedophiles, and that is a well-known fact.
This is a point that I'm gonna have to give to TJ. I don't believe that all gays and cross-dressers are pedophiles or child predators, and saying otherwise is quite frankly retarded. Nuclear Grifter tried to defend himself by arguing that he wasn't saying that.
No one ever said they all are.
But yes, you did. That's literally what you said.
It's like, what people are we talking about here? And of course, it's
Pedophiles, groomers, some people I'm sure TJ Kirk can sympathize with.
exactly who you think. It's, you know, drag queens and transgender people and stuff like that. So
That's exactly what I just said.
So, again, the point goes to TJ.
it's just, you know, one of these examples of the right wing being allowed to peddle violent rhetoric against their political opponents, but of course no one can do the same to them.
Here's a video.
Imprisonment is not violence.
I'm sure then that if someone with a gun were to come to your house, lock you in shackles, and then take you to a cage on the other side of town where you had to spend a prerequisite amount of time for years and years, I'm sure you wouldn't consider that violence done on your person, right? You'd just be like, oh no, this is fine. This is perfectly peaceable.
This is another point that I'm gonna have to grant to TJ. Even if you think that imprisoning somebody for committing an act that you've criminalized for being immoral is the right thing to do, which is probably what Nuclear Grifter was trying to argue here, you are still using violence to enforce societal norms.
Just went around of a guy at a New York City all-ages drag show, not wearing any pants, wearing a thong, wearing stiletto heels, jiggling around, teaching a little girl, I don't know, I'd place her age, let's say around 7 or 8, I can't really tell from the picture.
What's wrong with that, Michael? It's just dudes expressing themselves, their true selves around young children, their sexual perversion. What, you don't have some, morally relativistic justification?
Dude, no one's sexual perversion is I danced. If that's the worst sexual perversion you got is I dressed like a woman and danced, then you don't have shit for sexual perversion at that point. Like, that's weak sauce shit. Like, who gives a rat's ass? No one is like, oh man, I can't wait to get up there and dance.
I just love how Nuclear Grifter jokingly preempted that TJ would try and defend what the drag queen did by using reasoning that relies on moral relativism and still got proven right because TJ makes an argument that relies on moral relativism. Firstly, the drag queen did not just put on women's clothing and dance. Stop trying to obfuscate what happened here. The drag queen put on a skimpy, revealing outfit and performed sexual dances in front of children. If that isn't sexual perversion, then I don't know what is. Secondly, You personally not viewing that act as the worst kind of sexual perversion does not change the fact that it is still morally wrong. That is stupid reasoning.
For why drag queens should be able to shake their dicks in front of 7-year-old girls' faces?
Yeah, I love how all of a sudden it's their dicks now. There was a drag queen who had a little bit of his derriere exposed, and there were some kids in the audience.
But TJ, I thought that the drag queen was only wearing conventional women's clothing.
If that's the worst sexual perversion you got is I dressed like a woman and danced, then you don't have shit for sexual perversion at that point.
Now you're admitting that they were wearing a revealing outfit?
There was a drag queen who had a little bit of his derriere exposed.
Well then, there goes the point that you just got done making.
Oops.
And now now that's transformed in the space of like a few seconds to this drag queen was waggling his dick in them kids' faces. Like, no, he was not. That is a lie.
Even if Nuclear Grifter did exaggerate what happened, why would it matter to you if the drag queen had been shaking his dick in front of children, TJ? Oh yeah, we're totally fine with drag queens shaking their bare ass in front of children, but letting those children see their dick and balls? That's where we draw the line. Wow, what a fucking hero.
What fucking parents are having their little kids sitting here just watching this shit?
I went and looked
My
at the man's
God.
derriere. It wasn't all that.
Full disclosure, the parents of these children should all be in prison for like 10 years.
The parents of these kids should be put in prison for 10 years. Let me ask you a question. Do you think anybody can claim to care about the well-being of children if he thinks their parents should be put in prison for 10 years because there was a disagreement on what sort of content is appropriate for a kid?
Well, if this is the content that we're having a disagreement about, then the answer is yes. Now, maybe 10 years is a little too harsh of a punishment to dish out, but I'll let Nuclear Grifter himself explain the nuance of his position.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be 10 years. It could be 3, 4, 5 years. The point is to threaten parents of these children with imprisonment and to make examples of these people early on in this phenomenon. If you make an example of people, this kind of behavior simply will cease to happen. And if it doesn't, ask yourself why these parents would be so insistent, even risking jail time, to bring their kids to a sexually explicit show. It's really not that hard to figure out.
So, to reiterate, the answer is yes, at least for this specific situation.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
No, TJ, it shouldn't. And the fact that you think it should is morally reprehensible. I mean, I love how, in one instance, TJ is aghast that anybody would call him a pedophile enabler.
Right. So already just throwing it out there like, you know, pedophiles and shit, you know, kind of people TJ Kirk likes, you know what I mean?
And then, in another, he's arguing that parents should be allowed to sexually abuse their children.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
You can't make this stuff up, folks. Also, keep this point in mind. It will come up later.
And this guy basically says, yeah, we should take these children's parents away for 10 years and put them in prison.
Yes, TJ, I would think that'd be a reasonable punishment for somebody who has sexually abused their child.
And you know where some of those kids would end up? Foster care. The actual place where children are raped and molested all the time.
This isn't even an argument against punishing parents for sexually abusing their children. This is an argument for reforming our foster care system. Like, I agree, the foster care system sucks, but its sucking does not mean that we ought to let parents off the hook for whatever they decide to do with their children. That'd be like saying we can't criminalize rape because if we throw rapists in jail, they'll be murdered.
Which just shows this motherfucker doesn't give a rat's ass about no fucking goddamn kids. Because he basically says, let's make these children's lives immeasurably worse.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
You know that like stable home they have where, you know, food and comfort is provided for them and they're clothed and sheltered and all that?
You're assuming that all of these kids live in stable households with parents who lead well-adjusted lives. Ask yourself, what sort of sane, rational parent would allow their child to witness a drag queen do a strip dance in front of them while wearing sexually provocative clothing?
Let's take that away from them and place them in as wards of the state where there's a huge pipeline to trafficking, where there's gigantic problems with rape.
If the kid is already being sexually abused, wouldn't it be better to send them off to a place where they would only have a chance to experience more abuse?
Where these kids oftentimes grow up in poverty and are just, they never get adopted and they just fucking end up on the streets? And they end up turning to lives of crime because they have no family support system?
Does TJ not realize that parents aren't the only family you have? These kids probably have aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, or hell, maybe even friends who could take them in. So no, they wouldn't immediately be doomed to the foster care system, and bringing that up is disingenuous emotional manipulation.
I mean, you're gonna say that with all this just haughtily and casually, just like, yeah, ruin those kids' lives, I say, because I care about them. No, you don't, you fucking lying turd. You demon from Satan's anus?
This whole tirade only works if Nuclear Grifter doesn't have issues with our foster care system, which you haven't proven, you've just asserted, so fuck you.
What you want with these MAGA people? It's not like they would have like a bunch of like thong-clad women in front of their kids. Oh wait, oops, what's this? What's this? What's this?
Well, I mean, given it's not entirely appropriate, it is actual women, and not perverted, disgusting, degenerate freaks. There's a big world of difference there.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, this guy is so dumb that he's basically proving the contention of my video in the first place. Because the contention of my video was that these right-wingers don't care about children being exposed to butts. That's not what their actual concern is. Because there's plenty of instances where they're totally okay with it.
It's ironic how TJ calls Grifter dumb for proving the contention of his video while he himself is proving Grifter's point. TJ, Grifter is accusing you of defending child sex abuse, and instead of proving how what the drag queen did wasn't that, you're instead arguing that Grifter is alright with child sex abuse when his side does it. Not only does this not refute the point that's being argued here, but Grifter isn't even being a hypocrite because he straight up said that what the women were wearing was inappropriate.
Well, I mean, given it's not entirely appropriate.
So while he is saying that what happened in that picture isn't as bad as what the drag queen did, it's still bad. So go fuck yourself, you dishonest hack.
What they're concerned with is kids seeing, I mean, it's not even really kids. They don't even care about the kids at all. Fuck that. They don't even give a shit about that at all.
You sure about that?
You know what they actually care about is they don't want men dressing up like women. They don't want it because that's what they secretly want to do themselves. Look at this guy down underneath me. You know why his hair is long like that? It's because some part of him wants to express femininity. Because he deals with all these conflicting gender feelings inside of him. He doesn't like the idea that society might be permissible of that. Because then what if he discovers that maybe he's not a he? What if he discovers, hey, maybe I have a bigger feminine side than I thought. Maybe I like dressing in women's clothing. Maybe there are certain things that have been socially taboo up to this point that I want to go and break. That's what he's thinking. And that terrifies him. So now he's got to fucking do this big, bold, oh man, I hate these fucking trannies, man. Oh, drag queens, I hate them. They should be in jail. Because he's that desperate to bury what's really going on inside him.
What the hell is that?
Oh God. You know what, TJ? Please go back to criticizing Grifter's production skills, because at least those criticisms were valid. This is just pathetic. So, for the sake of the argument, let's assume that everything that TJ is saying about Grifter is true. Guess what? That has nothing to do with the validity of his argument. If I say that rape is bad, but I'm only saying it because I want to murder people, does my bad intention render my initial point invalid? No, it doesn't. So stop with this bullshit argumentation and address the fucking point, you weasel.
Actually, before I move on, I just want to point out how this graph TJ's editor posted on the screen of where people search for the term femboy the most proves absolutely nothing. First of all, it doesn't tell us why these people are searching up the term, which throws TJ's claim that conservatives are just self-hating bigots into serious question, since there are a number of reasons why somebody would look the word femboy up. Second of all, it doesn't tell us who is searching up the term, so for all we know, the people searching this word up could all be liberals, which would again throw TJ's claim into question. So yeah, the data in this graph is meaningless and proves nothing. Tell them what this means, Willy Wonka.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Fancy living, here we come. Wah, 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 wah.
Another thing, on top of these actually just being regular women, the children clearly are not here to witness the spectacle, which is their ass. They're simply taking a picture with their dad with some...
The children are not there to witness the spectacle, which is their ass. I mean, the ass is just like right there, front and center in the fucking picture. I mean, I guess the family is front and center, but this family of little maggots is framed by fucking big jiggly butt.
Yeah, and the children weren't there for that, TJ. How is it that you've spent this long talking about this fuck Biden picture, and yet you still haven't explained what makes it equal to what the drag queen did? For those of you who don't understand why I don't think that these two things are equal, let me play a clip from the first part of my commentary explaining my reasoning. If this fuck Biden picture was taken at a political rally and these scantily clad women were merely attendees whom the family bumped into and decided to take a picture with on a whim, then it's fallacious to compare that to this all-ages drag show that's specifically staged to celebrate the lifestyle of drag queens, which apparently includes dancing sexually in even skimpier outfits in front of children who were brought there by their parents in spite of how inappropriate the festivities are for them. Because they're two entirely different situations.
Which, do I care? No. But do you guys, by your own stupid backwards fucking standards, care? Yeah, you claim to.
Yeah. What was it that NUCLEAR GRIFTER said about the way these two women were dressed?
Well, I mean, given it's not entirely appropriate.
And what did he just get done saying?
Another thing, on top of these actually just being regular women, the children clearly are not here to witness the spectacle, which is their ass. They're simply taking a picture with their dad with some, you know, dumb little sign here at some convention. So false equivalency there.
Once again, go fuck yourself.
Fancy living, here we come. Wah, 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 wah.
To be hearing.
I mean, they're not hearing it. There's a sign that implies the word fuck to an adult. I don't think a child would surmise fuck from that, but...
Wow, wait a minute. What are you telling me? What are you telling me right now, buddy? Are you telling me that maybe children don't have the same conception of sexuality that an adult has? And therefore, maybe seeing this is not harmful to them then?
Hey TJ, why don't you let Grifter's video play just a little bit longer?
I'm not saying I approve. It's, this is a kind of a stupid picture. It's trashy, but it's definitely not like particularly harmful to a child's development.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why you wait for your opponent to finish their point before you start responding to it. Grifter does think that what these two women are doing is bad, and so TJ trying to pull the hypocrisy card on him in order to refute his argument doesn't work.
I'm not saying I approve. It's, this is a kind of a stupid picture. It's trashy, but it's definitely not like particularly harmful to a child's development.
Like, yeah, speaking of the expert here, this guy is gonna now. This guy, after just a minute ago, he's telling us, I'm gonna lock these parents of these kids up. I'm gonna take these kids. I'm gonna lock up their parents. I'm gonna put them in the system where their chances of being sexually exploited go up astronomically, all to prove my dumb fuck right-wing bullshit talking point. That guy is now going to tell you he's a fucking expert in fucking child development or some shit. No. You ain't an expert in shit.
TJ, you're the one who says that parents should be allowed to sexually abuse their children.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
And that children being exposed to sexual degeneracy isn't gonna be harmful to them because they don't know what's going on.
Are you telling me that maybe children don't have the same conception of sexuality that an adult has? And therefore, maybe seeing this is not harmful to them then?
You don't know any more about child development than Grifter does.
You don't even know how to fucking... You got an RE20 in your fucking hand. Anybody who knows shit about microphones knows that you're a fucking dumbass. Anybody who knows the goddamn thing about green screens knows you're a fucking dumbass. There's a reason I don't use green screens, because my hair doesn't complement them. Neither does yours. Now, I don't mean to fucking get bogged down in like a bunch of technical shit, because it's not like I'm the most technically proficient YouTuber ever. I get my share of fucking shit for, bad editing and bad lighting and this and that and the other thing. Trying to get better. But still, man, like, this is just such remedial shit.
TJ, are you even fucking trying? I'd like to let you guys know that we are now a fourth of the way through this video, and the two arguments that TJ has spent the most time making are, "You're a stinky doo-doo head," and "Your video looks bad." Why even bother making this response if you don't have anything useful to say? Like, come on, man. This is lowbrow, even for you.
Doesn't know that the little kids are watching. He's doing it for the kids. They're in the front row. And he's looking at the girl who's dancing around.
Yeah, another point is the intent. The intent is for the drag queen to be shaking his ass and presumably dick and balls or whatever the fuck. I mean, the gloves are off at this point. The kids are there to witness the spectacle, which is explicitly sexual.
Presumably dick and balls at some point. Just love that. I love how that's just snuck in. Like, and presumably it's dick and balls as well. It's like, no.
TJ, he said presumably at some point. Do you not have any idea what those words mean? He's not saying that happened. He's just guessing that it did.
If the drag queen was brandishing dick and balls in front of the kids, I'm pretty sure that everybody would be like, no, this is not appropriate, and take their little ones away.
You poor naive chump.
And I'm pretty sure that drag queen would get fucking dragged, no pun intended, all over fucking social media by left, right, and center.
I know that that's a lie, because you yourself said earlier in this video that parents should be allowed to sexually abuse their children.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
So fuck off with that nonsense. I also love how TJ just ignores the main point from Grifter, which is that what makes what the drag queen did worse than what happened in the fuck Biden photo is the context behind it.
But that's not what happened. You don't get to just make up something worse that happened because what actually happened isn't actually bad at all.
Grifter wasn't making anything up, he was just guessing. That aside, what strange wording from TJ. I'm gonna let Nuclear Grifter explain what I mean by that.
What do you mean worse, TJ? Why is it worse? What would make it worse? Are you saying that it's bad? He just let it slip that he knows kids being exposed to this shit is bad. That's why he said worse. But again, why would it be worse, TJ? Sexual, and not just sexual, but sexually deviant. I mean, like fucking mental illness shit. These are not
mental illness shit. Being a drag queen is not a mental illness. Show me in the DSM, show me in any modern psychological text where it says that being a drag queen is a mental illness.
So, maybe being a drag queen itself isn't a mental illness, but you want to know what is? Wanting to sexually abuse children. So the point still stands, retard.
verbal things
with him and teaching her how to twerk. And so now we're all going to be outraged.
Oh my God, dancing! They're dancing! Ah! What is this? We're living in fucking Footloose now? Can't fucking dance no more?
Shaking your man ass in front of a 7-year-old girl is not dancing.
It actually is dancing. What dance doesn't involve shaking your fucking ass? As Skeptical Jesus just asked in the chat. That's literally like when I was a kid, they taught us like the hokey pokey, and part of that was like you wiggle your fucking butt around. Like it's literally like the center of your body. Wiggling your ass is what dancing is. If there's one thing you're gonna move in a dance, even if you're too fucking white to even move your feet and your feet are just planted there, the one thing you are gonna do is gyrate your fucking butt around. That's dancing. Like, what are you talking about?
So again, I will have to grant the point to TJ. Denying that the drag queen was dancing does look pretty stupid on Grifter's part. But firstly, this argument does not refute the broader point that Grifter is making, and secondly, there being innocuous dances that involve shaking your ass doesn't make what the drag queen did okay. That is the definition of a false equivalency.
That's an implicitly sexual display. By the way, TJ,
no,
having
it's
sex.
not. This is. I love how I fucking compare them to Footloose, and he's like, "Nuh-uh, it's not like that at all. These dances are inherently sexual." What do you think the objection was to the dances in Footloose? What do you think the objection was to Elvis Presley? What do you think the objection was to fucking anybody who's ever been against dance? Everybody in the history of being against dancing has been against dancing because it's sexual in nature.
So, you want to know what I didn't hear in that minute and a half of rambling? An argument as to how any of those examples of dancing weren't sexual in nature. People being outraged about a dance tells us nothing about whether or not that dance is sexual. And when we're talking about a drag queen shaking their bare ass at children, yes, that is implicitly sexual. So what the fuck are you even going on about, TJ?
Clearly, you guys don't give a fuck about butts being exposed. Need more examples? How about this? I mean, we are like an inch away from that girl's pussy right now. This is a fucking Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
So TJ has opted to cherry pick a picture of a real woman cheerleading at a football game, and this is supposed to be BTFOing Michael Knowles. This is a
Yeah, it's not supposed to be, it is.
It actually isn't, and I'll play a clip from part 1 of my commentary to explain why. All of this is just an appeal to silence. Just because Michael Knowles hasn't specifically commented on how Hooters and the Dallas Cowboys use sex to sell their family-friendly services doesn't mean that he must be okay with it. Otherwise, I could just sit here and accuse TJ of being a pedophile, and if he stays silent about my specific allegation, I could then say, see, TJ hasn't responded to my specific claim that he's a pedophile, which is evidence that he's fucking kids. That's a nonsense argument.
But yeah, that's the point. The point is that when there is a heterosexual, hetero-coded display of sexuality in society, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares.
I refer you to my last point.
Or if they do, it's not on any sort of basis other than just like, this is disrespectful to women. Like, That might be their concern. Or they could be like, I mean, maybe if they're like super fucking crazy evangelical.
TJ, the existence of people like that completely dismantles your hypocrisy point. Those crazy evangelicals you mentioned make up an absurd percentage of conservatives in the United States. And before you try and argue that not all of these Christians are necessarily against these open displays of sexual degeneracy, let me remind you that right as I'm recording this video, there is a huge controversy going on in right-wing Twitter over a Christian influencer named Nala recording a sexually suggestive baking video. So unless you can square away the existence of these people whom you would call extreme prudes, you are not gonna get out of this corner that you've backed yourself into.
But by and large, society has determined that this is acceptable.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
And why? Because it's hetero-coded. That's why. The whole point of the video is that hetero-coded overt displays of sexuality are okay in the broader social context, but when it's a drag queen or a trans person, then all of a sudden, different standards are applied.
Even ignoring all of the stuff that I've already brought up, didn't you just go on a rant about how movies like Footloose spurred outrage from the general public?
I love how I fucking compare them to Footloose, and he's like, nuh-uh, it's not like that at all. These dances are inherently sexual. What do you think the objection was to the dances in Footloose?
If society really were as permissive of hetero-coded displays of sexual degeneracy, then there would never be any outcry over movies like that, or over public incidents such as Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl, or YouTubers sexting female minors.
So if you wanted to argue with the video, you're doing a really shitty job. Because what you're doing is actually making my points for me by saying to me, yes, you're right. That is exactly why. So, like, how fucking dumb can you be?
Now that is irony.
Really compelling counter-argument. Case closed. You know what, drag queens? Go ahead and shake your ass and dick and balls in front of 7-year-olds.
Notice how he keeps slipping that proposition by. Dick and balls, dick and balls, dick and balls. No one shook their dick and balls, dumbass.
They still shook their bare ass, so is that really much of a difference? If I take my 7-year-old kid to the strip club, am I exempt from any child abuse charges that could be brought against me because all of the ladies covered their naughty bits in lingerie? Yeah, I thought not.
If that was what happened, we'd be talking about that. And everybody's take would be a lot different.
Again, you said this earlier.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
So shut up.
But that's not what happened, so stop trying to sneak the premise by.
Or what, TJ?
Doing a routine in front of a giant crowd. Throngs of thousands of fucking people, including a bunch of little-ass goddamn kids, wearing way the fuck less than that drag queen was a second ago.
Drag queens are sexually deviant, predatory men. This is just a young woman doing her job. And doing it quite well, my...
So, just like another thing, premise, just slid by, no argumentation, no actual evidence to support it, just bold-faced statement right to the camera. Drag queens are perverted, sexually predatory men. Let's get this straight now. If you are a dude and you decide, you know what would be fun is if I dressed up like as a woman and sang some songs and danced around. That is sexually predatory. I mean, you are a fucking imbecile.
Nigga, I know you ain't out here criticizing anyone else for making assertions without evidence. All throughout your original video, you accused Michael Knowles of being okay with hetero-coded displays of sexual degeneracy without proving it. Your proof was that Michael hadn't said anything about those displays, which is a logical fallacy. Like, I agree, what Nuclear Grifter said is dumb, but don't act like you're any better than him.
Fancy living, here we come. Wah, 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 wah.
These are the same people protesting drag queens reading to kids, so the intent doesn't matter.
But why do drag queens wanna read to kids? What is so important about drag queens that they need to insert themselves into children's spaces so that children can learn about them? I mean, you never hear about drag queens reading to the elderly or the sick. And what kind of books are they reading to kids anyways? I doubt it's something like The Cat in the Hat. So, yeah, the intent does matter.
Well, let's think about what the actual intent is here. What is the true nefarious nature of why a drag queen would want to read to kids?
I refer you to my last point.
What is the true nefarious nature of why a drag queen would want to dance at an all-ages show?
Once again, he is being disingenuous about what happened. The drag queen was not doing the hokey pokey while being dressed in normal clothing. He was dressed in a skimpy outfit and was twerking. Stop lying about that.
What is the true nefarious reason for all of this? Well, you see, it's so that when those kids grow up and someone comes to them and says, I hate these fucking drag queens, they're a bunch of freaks and weirdos, that kid, instead of being like, yeah, I agree, because they've never even met a drag queen and it's no skin off their teeth, instead of doing that, they say, wait a minute, we had a drag queen read to me when I was a kid. There was nothing wrong with that person. They were just just a normal person like anybody else. They were just dressed up silly. Who fucking gives a shit? Fuck you. You're a bigot.
You see, guys, these drag queens just want to be accepted into civilized society. That's why they're wearing sexually provocative outfits out in public and are shaking their bare asses in front of 5-year-olds. Because they just want to be seen as normal people.
So yeah, you know what this fucking LGBT agenda is? Being accepted. The LGBT agenda is, hopefully one day, bigots who want me dead can't just run roughshod through the culture just saying the shit they want to say. Be like, I hate gays, all drag queens are predators. They're trying to create a world where people like you don't fucking exist, which is a better fucking world. Good fucking riddance to you. Bye the fuck bye.
So, was there, like, an argument anywhere in there? All I got from the past minute of whining was TJ obfuscating what the drag queen in question did and attacking a straw man who believes that all of the people in the LGBT community should be rounded up into camps and murdered, which nobody was arguing. By the way, TJ, for somebody who got onto Grifter's case for making assertions without evidence, you still haven't answered something. Why ought the LGBT community be accepted? Why ought we normalize behaviors like cross-dressing? You're saying that we should do these things, but you haven't provided an explanation as to why we should be doing those things.
Oh my god, it's a national tragedy.
Yeah, that's fucking disgusting. And if you think that's appropriate, you're a fucking retard, and I hope it...
Yep. Whether I think it's appropriate or not, doesn't really matter.
Is this nigga serious?
Why would you go on a whole ass tirade about how gays, trannies, and cross-dressers should be accepted into wider society if what people find inappropriate is irrelevant?
The point is not what you, raving dipshit, do or don't find appropriate.
Yes, the fuck it is, because why else would you take issue with Michael Knowles saying that what the drag queen did was inappropriate? Why would you try to call him and Grifter hypocrites if what they do and don't find appropriate is irrelevant to the argument? Explain, TJ, explain!
The point is that there is no substantive difference between what's going on here and what's going on in the other pictures.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck. Oh my.
The only difference is that one is women and one is a man.
Wrong. You're wrong.
And that difference, I hate to tell you, is completely the fuck irrelevant.
Whoa. Stop right there. You just said a moment ago that the thing that was irrelevant was Grifter thinking that what the drag queen did was inappropriate.
The point is not what you, raving dipshit, do or don't find appropriate.
So what's this bullshit about how the differing genders of the offending parties is what's irrelevant? Are you even fucking listening to yourself, TJ? You're on, like, a completely different point from the one that you started on.
I know you keep trying to make it some sort of relevant, cogent point, but you can't because A, it's not, and B, even if it was, you're not suited or capable of being the person that makes it seem like one.
What exactly does TJ think is being argued here? I think he's trying to call Grifter a hypocrite for defending the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, but in order for this argument to work, he would need to explain how the cheerleaders going on their standard dancing routines is in any way equal to what the drag queen did, which he still hasn't done.
In the course of this video, you've shown people that mask off you believe everything I've always said you believe. That's why I'm covering this video, dude, because you're just the textbook example. I always say, hey guys, these right-wingers, secretly, they all believe what this dude does. And here you come as a fucking living, shining example. This is the kind of shit that exists on the right wing, folks. Here it is. Here he is. For your fucking viewing displeasure. This sack of human fucking garbage that gets to live on the same planet as you, that gets to vote in our elections, that gets to post videos on YouTube as if he were a real person deserving of respect, when we all know that's not fucking true.
So now Amazing Atheist is trying to lump all conservatives in with Grifter to make it seem as though they are all as extreme with their social views as he is. Hey TJ, remember how earlier in the video you took umbrage with Grifter making all these nasty generalizations about drag queens?
It's, you know, drag queens and transgender people and stuff like that. So
That's exactly what I just said.
So yeah, we're only 49 seconds in and he's already directly, not even in any ambiguous terms, directly correlates like gay and trans people, pedophiles.
Yeah, well, as a right-leaning libertarian, I don't appreciate you baselessly asserting what my own beliefs are just because some jackass with not even 10,000 subscribers said that all cross-dressers are mentally ill degenerates. Maybe try practicing what you fucking preach, jackass.
Act like what they're fucking scandalized by is that there's like some sort of sexual display going on in front of these damn kids.
No! We would never imply that drag queens clip on gigantic fake boobs and shake their asses in front of 7-year-old kids for the sexual thrill. That would be just fucking outlandish.
Yeah, it would. Unironically, it would be outlandish, but we all know there's nothing beyond you guys. We all know there's nothing so completely bogus or full of shit that you won't get on camera and espouse it to your audience of fucking however many, 1,000 people or whatever the fuck, whatever morons are misfortunate enough to be missing just the right amount of chromosomes to listen to your fucking retarded ass. We know you don't give a shit what you peddle to those morons. That's what I'm fucking saying.
TJ, you've spent more time insulting Grifter than you have addressing his fucking points. Like, none of this refutes the argument that society is attempting to normalize pedophilic drag queens doing sexually degenerate stuff in and around children, and that should be opposed. You just say that viewpoint is wrong, but you don't explain why. Hell, you don't explain a single goddamn thing.
My father's office. Period. I slept with my stepfather's co-worker in our RV over Thanksgiving.
Take a listen to this fucking logic here. This drag queen performed at Nickelodeon, but at a different time, at a different venue, where they were performing for adults, they said some bawdy things, y'all. So fucking what, dipshit?
Okay, does TJ not see the subtitle that Grifter added over that clip? Now, if you want to say that he's lying, go right ahead, but you can't just ignore the point that he's trying to make. The fuck's wrong with you?
Like, okay, Bob Saget was the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. Bob Saget was, on that stupid, shitty, garbage-ass motherfucking Full House show, that G-rated pap for fucking low IQ morons to veg out in front of. You ever heard the fucking kind of saucy things that motherfucker said on the stage? A lot more fucking tawdry than what you just heard from this drag queen, I'll tell you that.
You are seriously going to ignore what the subtitle is saying, aren't you? Also, nice whataboutism, buddy. Unfortunately for you, there's a very solid chance that nothing that was shown on Full House or America's Funniest Home Videos approaches anywhere near the level of degeneracy that we're seeing from these drag queens. I mean, is there an episode of Full House where Bob Saget shows the Olsen twins the post-op surgery scars of a tranny or pimps them out to pedophiles or something? Are there any old-school episodes of America's Funniest Home Videos that featured subversive sexual messaging? Did Bob Saget tell stories about blowing dudes in front of the live audiences on those shows? No? Then shut the fuck up and address what the caption says, faggot. By the way, did you know that Australia tried to produce a sexually themed version of AFHV titled Australia's Naughtiest Home Videos? You probably didn't, because it got pulled off the air after less than half an hour, and the network that it aired on tried to scrub all traces of it from existence over the next 2 decades. So there's another instance of society shunning hetero-coded displays of sexual degeneracy, despite there apparently being a double standard when it comes to gays.
Oops.
George Carlin was Mr. Conductor on the Thomas the Tank Engine show. You know, and how fucking bawdy was his stand-up? You know, he famously did the 7 words you can't say on television, and he was on a kids show.
I cannot believe that you're just ignoring what the caption says. Also, stop trying to conflate a drag queen shaking their bare ass in front of children with a raunchy comedian doing an innocuous narration for a wholesome kids show. Not only is that whataboutism, but it's also a false equivalence.
So guess what, motherfucker? There is not this weird standard where someone who makes entertainment for adults can't also make entertainment for kids.
Is that what we're calling child sex abuse now? Entertainment? Man, no wonder Nuclear Grifter didn't cover your full response in his video. This is just embarrassing.
But you know what? The entertainment they make for kids is like way watered down. There's plenty of fucking entertainers who do this shit.
And these drag queens aren't in that camp.
So this idea that you're going to throw this drag queen under the bus because they're fucking all ages shit is not, oh yeah, they seem family friendly here, But when they're performing for adults in a totally different place and time, you should hear what they say then.
My nigga, the caption takes up half of the goddamn screen. Read it. These drag queens are telling children about their sexual escapades. Stop pretending like you don't see the point that Nuclear Grifter is trying to convey.
You know how many attractive 22-year-old women are sexual predators? About 1 in 5 trillion.
Numerous people will tell you that they've been sexually harassed and molested by women who meet exactly that description. There's probably some in this chat right now that could lay that out for you.
Oh, numerous people, huh? Look, I'm not gonna pretend like female child predators don't exist, because they do. However, for somebody who criticizes others for blurting out stuff without proof, you are making a ton of assertions right now, and I don't appreciate that.
But, you know, like when I told this story on Joe Rogan, there was a woman at my old office that I used to work at. Before I did YouTube, before I was on any of this, there was a fucking a woman in her 20s who was very conventionally attractive who used to sexually harass me in the fucking workplace. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because I was the boss's son. I don't know if she found me attractive. I don't know if it just amused her. I don't know what her reasoning was, but she definitely crossed the line. You know, she would walk up behind me and stick her hands in my back pockets and like squeeze my ass. I remember doing that and being like, ooh, you don't really have much of an ass, do you? So I don't know. Is that like, okay? Is she not a predator? Is that not a predatory fucking thing to do? Maybe I wouldn't go so far as to say she's a predator, because I think that is a little bit hyperbolic, but like that definitely shows a predilection towards not really giving too much of a shit about the consent of someone that you're grabbing the ass of, which to me, little bit fucking strange.
Firstly, that is an anecdote and does not actually prove anything in and of itself. Secondly, Grifter never said that female child predators don't exist, just that they're incredibly rare.
You know how many attractive 22-year-old women are sexual predators? About 1 in 5 trillion.
Nice of you to try and imply that, though.
Gay guys are sexual predators, especially drag queens? A fucking lot. Like, most of them, you fuck.
Most of them. Most of them. Did you guys hear that shit? This motherfucker just said, when it comes to gay people and drag queens, most of them are sexual predators. No evidence to support that whatsoever. Not gonna provide any.
Now that is irony.
Oh, I take it back. There's gonna be something he's gonna do.
Fucking retard.
I might even do it right here. Yeah. I don't know who the fuck this is, but this guy is gonna lay out the case, and it might be kind of hard to hear because the audio quality is terrible. I don't know why he didn't just say this shit. Instead, he decided to show us a clip of someone reading it in a dark, smoky room somewhere. But listen to this shit. I want you guys to fucking really pay attention and listen to what is gonna be laid out right here.
6% of all child molesters are male. 1 out of 3 molestation victims is a boy. 1 to 3% of the total U.S. population is homosexual. 1 to 3% of the general population commits 1/3 of the child molestation. What that means is, best case scenario, is that 55% of homosexuals are child molesters. So that means when you go meet a new friend, and he's gay, oh, hey, what's up, I'm gay, I'm totally best friend material, I'm cool, I'm the people you see on TV, right? I'm totally well-adjusted. Flip a coin, and if it's heads, he's probably going to get a kid head later. Sexy 6-year-old. Thank you guys.
God, those catching.
Okay. Did you get all that? So basically what's being said is because a good solid chunk of the kids that get molested are boys, and because homosexuals represent a reasonably small portion of the population, that means that there is like this massive epidemic of gay men raping boys. So this guy is not the first person to trot out this talking point. It used to be trotted out all the time back in the 80s and 90s when homophobes were a little bit more brazen than they are today. But the reason it's not trotted out much anymore is not just because it's disgusting and offensive and encourages violence against gay people, but because it's very easily deflected by anyone who actually looks at the research and discovers that remarkably few of the people who molest kids identify as homosexual or identify as having attraction to adult men. Most of the fucking guys that do it either say they're exclusively attracted to kids or they're attracted to women and kids. So it's very few gay dudes that are into this. And anybody who actually looked at the research would tell you that, just as a matter of honesty. But they're going to trot out this used, old, ancient talking point that was thrown into the garbage decades ago because it's so fucking bad and so disgusting and so offensive and so wrong. He's going to resurrect that from the fucking dead so that he can make this hideous, evil, demented case that half of all gay people are pedophiles.
Oh man, there is a lot to unpack here. Firstly, I'm going to say right from the get-go that overall, I do think that TJ is making a valid point. I don't think that gay people are more likely to molest boys just because the amount of boys who have been molested matches the amount of gay men that live in the United States. However, he still makes two crucial mistakes here. The first is the result of what his editor said in the first caption. Let's read it, shall we?
Quote, "This is Sam Hyde, a notorious shock comedian who's known for saying fucked up shit in order to get a reaction out of people."
How does this caption hurt TJ's argument, you ask? Because it essentially means that TJ took an edgy joke from a comedian seriously.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
The second mistake that TJ makes is that the evidence he posits does not actually bolster his claim. He says that remarkably few of the people that molest kids identify as homosexual.
Remarkably few of the people who molest kids identify as homosexual?
But the screenshot his editor posts of the study that he's citing says the following.
Quote, "According to the American Psychological Association, children are not more likely to be molested by LGBT parents or their LGBT friends or acquaintances." Gregory Herrick, a professor at the University of California, Davis, who is one of the nation's leading researchers on prejudice against sexual minorities, reviewed a series of studies and found no evidence that gay men molest children at higher rates than heterosexual men.
So, what this study is saying is not that gay people are less likely to molest boys than straight people are. Otherwise, the article would have explicitly stated that gay people are less likely to molest boys. It also appears to make no distinction as to the gender of the children involved in the studies, so who's to say what the actual rates of gay child molesters are? To make a complicated point short, TJ is reading things into these studies that aren't actually there. And, you know, I would like to read the article for myself so that I could check if it actually does say what TJ claims it does, but he didn't link to it in the description of his video, nor in the pinned comment, so I can't. That's weird. For somebody who boasts about being honest and transparent, you would think that he would share his sources with the general public so that we could fact-check them. Go figure.
Also, what the actual fuck does To Catch a Predator featuring mainly straight pedophiles have to do with anything? That show ran for 1 season and caught around 200 people according to its Wikipedia page. You know how big of a fucking number 3% of the US population is? We're talking millions of people. You can't use a sample size that small from a reality television show, no less, to bolster your claim that gay people aren't more likely to molest boys than straight people are. That'd be like me trying to disprove that water is safe to drink by pointing to this one incident in Africa where a tiny village of 300 people died from drinking dirty water and contracting cholera. It just makes no fucking sense.
Disclaimer, this is not TJ Kirk regardless of the uncanny resemblance. Okay, so first of all, look at yourself, bro. I mean, you bear way more of a resemblance to this guy than I do. I don't know what delusions you have about your fucking appearance, but when I'm looking at this fucker and I'm looking at your fucking sad sack potato ass, the only difference is that he has a better tan than you, and you're basically white as the fucking the driven snow. So I don't know what you're fucking trying to like cast aspersions on me looking like this motherfucker when you look more like him than I fucking do.
Oh, isn't that fucking interesting? When Grifter adds a caption to his video that's easy to flip back on him, TJ is super quick to read it aloud and do so. But when Grifter adds a caption to his video that completely demolishes TJ's argument, TJ pretends as though he doesn't see it. How fucking convenient.
Some right-wingers hate all that shit across the goddamn spectrum. But this fucking guy right here, because it's a man dressed as a woman. That's it. He's upset because it's a man dressed up in woman's clothing. Like a
Shaking his ass in front of 7-year-old children. That's a convenient part to leave out, isn't it?
But we already established that you don't care about that.
No, we didn't. You just asserted that Grifter was a hypocrite because you ignored when he said that the fuck Biden photo was still trashy and objectionable.
You can't pretend to care about that all of a sudden now. You didn't care about it before. When a woman did it, you're just like, a little trashy, but whatever. When a man dresses a woman does it, all of a sudden it's this grossly offensive thing.
No, TJ. Why don't I play for you exactly what Grifter said?
Another thing, on top of these actually just being regular women, the children clearly are not here to witness the spectacle, which is their ass. They're simply taking a picture with their dad with some, you know, dumb little sign here, some convention. So false equivalency there. Well, I mean, given it's not entirely appropriate, it is actual women, and not perverted, disgusting, degenerate freaks. There's a big world of difference there. I'm not saying I approve. It's, you know, this is a kind of a stupid picture. It's trashy, but it's definitely not like particularly harmful to a child's development.
Like to know that the little kids are watching. He's doing it for the kids. They're in the front row, and he's looking at the girl who's dancing around.
Yeah, another point is the intent. The intent is for the drag queen to be shaking his ass and presumably dick and balls or whatever the fuck. I mean, the gloves are off at this point. The kids are there to witness the spectacle, which is explicitly sexual, and not just sexual, but sexually deviant. I mean, like fucking mental illness shit. These are not comparable things.
Grifter directly said that he doesn't approve of that photo. He just doesn't think that it's as bad as what the drag queen did. And guess what? It's not, and I've already explained why it's not. Unless you're gonna sit down and explain what makes these two situations exactly the same, which in 30 minutes of rambling you've so far failed to do, this hypocrisy point doesn't work.
What I'm trying to get through your dumb fucking skull is that you don't care about these kids. If the problem was children seeing a display of sexuality, you would condemn all of those things equally. You would condemn the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader and the MAGA thong chicks and the Hooters girls. You would condemn them all with equal fervor because they're all showing sexual displays in a place where children are.
All right. So ignoring that Grifter did say that one of these examples was inappropriate, I'm going to further explain why these examples are not the same. For starters, I'd really like to know what sexual displays the fucking Hooters waitresses are showing. What? Are they doing strip dances in the middle of the fucking restaurant? Yes. They wear skimpy outfits, and their looks are what the restaurant uses to lure people in. But at the end of the day, the customers of Hooters are going there for the food, because that's what the girls exist to advertise. Same goes for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They only exist as a marketing arm for the football team that they represent. If there was no football team, nobody would give a shit about the cheerleaders, because we're not there for them, we're there for the team. Well, okay, given how terribly the Cowboys have been playing over the last few years, the opposite might actually be true, but that's besides the point. Contrast that with this Pride event, which was specifically about celebrating diverse lifestyles. One of the acts at the event involves a drag queen shaking his bare ass at an all-ages crowd, which includes children, who are there specifically to see that display of sexual degeneracy. And as for the fuck Biden photo, that could have been a completely incidental occurrence that had nothing to do with what the family was out doing that day. So unless you're gonna explain how all of these things are equal in nature, you have no argument.
Now, they're very PG-13 sexual displays that you get away with in a fucking movie that wouldn't even have an R rating. So that kind of makes it like almost like whatever.
Wait a minute, TJ. What are you telling me right now? That these displays of sexual degeneracy aren't anywhere near as bad as what the drag queen did? Then it kinda makes sense why Grifter doesn't see these two examples as equivalent, doesn't it?
But they are displays that are in some nature sexual, you know, but in a very like PG way. Because we're talking about dancing and shit.
Yes, and just as there are different forms of entertainment, there are different forms of dancing. And the type of dancing that this drag queen was doing in front of these kids is far worse than whatever the fuck the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are doing.
Whether it's Elvis gyrating his hips on national TV, or it's the you know, the characters in Footloose. I never actually seen fucking Footloose. I know the plot though. Doing whatever they fucking do. Or Megan Thee Stallion shaking her big butt around, or whatever the fuck. Like, there's all sorts of, like, sexual displays in dancing.
This is whataboutism, and doesn't actually disprove the point that children shouldn't be allowed to see open displays of sexual degeneracy.
But they're not pornographic in nature. They're titillation in nature.
What is the fucking difference, TJ?
They're like innocent little like, ooh, yeah, don't I have a nice butt? Don't I have nice tits? You know, it's that kind of stuff.
You calling that kind of stuff innocent does not actually make it innocent, buddy. Sorry to tell ya, but that's not how that works.
You know, if you want like the next level of dancing where it's like, ooh, this is way more sexual, that's like stripping and shit, or like, which can go all the way from like very lowbrow shit to like very hoity-toity, like, oh yes, this is high-end stripping. This is erotic dance, erotic performance. You know, you can go all the way to that level.
And I'm of the belief that this all has to go. So, who is this argument for again?
But that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is just garden variety dancing, where people like shake what you got, you know? You got it, flaunt it kind of shit. It's not a big fucking deal.
I just love how after 30 minutes of rambling, the best defense that TJ can mount for what the drag queen did is nuh-uh. Like, that's the best he's got. Also, this is an appeal to triviality, which is fallacious reasoning. You personally thinking that the drag queen's performance wasn't a big deal does not answer the question as to whether it was wrong that said performance was staged.
You know, we've already decided as a society that this is acceptable.
Ah yes, the argumentum ad populum. Well, the majority of society thinks that this is acceptable, so it must be acceptable. Hey TJ, in Muslim countries, women are treated as second-class citizens who are barred from doing things such as driving and getting an education. Which, you know, I consider based, but that's besides the point. Would you, as a progressive, defend that standard as morally acceptable just because the majority of the people that live in these countries find them acceptable? Yeah. I didn't think so.
And if you're going to say it's all of a sudden unacceptable when a drag queen is doing it, then your problem is obviously not with the dance, not with the butt, not with the kitties seeing. Your problem is with men who like to dress up like women. even though they're not harming you in any way, shape, or form. You just hate them because you hate yourself, because you hate the part of yourself that wishes you could be them.
Again, these arguments rely on a lot of unproven assertions and faulty logic, so I'm not gonna bother refuting them.
Holy fuck, TJ Kirk, genius mind of the 21st century.
Correct.
I beg to differ.
What other brilliant gems doth lie in this man's mind?
Let's find out. That's what a drag queen is. Not even a trans person, not even a person who identifies as a woman, but a person who probably identifies as a man, but just likes to play dress up. And
do you think what they identify as matters?
Yes.
But why does it matter?
I mean, honestly, like, literally just think.
Okay, I'm thinking. Yes.
But why?
Do you think for 1 second the implications of this situation are changed by what the person...
Okay, yeah, let me think for 1 second, you said. One full second. Yes.
Again, why does that matter?
Identifies as. Little secret about reality is that what you identify as...
Little secret about reality is you waved bye-bye to it a long fucking time ago, bitch. You are not gonna lecture me about reality, you fucking disconnected from reality psychopath. No. You don't get to lecture me about anything. You don't get to lecture me about proper treatment of a microphone, proper use of a green screen, proper grooming habits, proper skincare routines, anything. Especially not something that actually matters. I don't know. If I need advice on how to be a weak-chinned little chud that would get the shit kicked out of him if he said any of this shit to my face in real life, if I need advice on that, I'll go to you, because clearly you're the fucking expert on that one thing and that one fucking thing alone. But other than that, I ain't going to you for shit other than fodder for my channel so I can make fun of you and make money. That's what you are to me. Do you realize that? Your life brought you here, motherfucker. You know where your life brought you? Your life brought you to the point where you're nothing more than a little fucking grape on the vine of dumb fucks for me to squeeze so I can have a little bit of that juice, that money juice, that monetization juice run down my greedy little grifter gullet, bitch. That's all the fuck you ended up. Here it is, motherfucker, the pinnacle of your existence. The day that I knew who the fuck you were. Because tomorrow I won't, and yesterday I didn't. Do you think you'd survive a fucking second in a fucking room with me? Do you have that delusion as well, my friend? That's a dangerous delusion to have. Might want to be a little careful with that one.
All right, Nuclear Grifter, do you want to go ahead and respond to that entire tirade?
Oh, I just realized he's drinking in this video. That might be why this is so stupid. Nah, who am I kidding? It's fucking the Amazing Atheist.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
The fact that these people think that this is just as acceptable as this, that makes him mad.
Yeah, I think what's making him mad is that it's becoming somewhat socially allowed for this kind of behavior to occur. He's not mad at the children. He's mad at the adults, mostly gay. Oh, but they're
mostly gay based on what? Like the idea that none of these people who brought their kids here are straight couples? I mean, they have kids. Kind of some evidence to the contrary, don't you think?
No, actually, that's not the brilliant mind of TJ Kirk, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a kid with a woman, that must mean that you're straight. Also, For the millionth time, you are not in any position to chastise anyone else for presenting baseless conjecture as fact. Notice too, by the way, that TJ just skipped Nuclear Grifter's argument about what relevance the identity of the drag queen has. What? Was that too hard-hitting of a question for the Amazing Atheist to answer?
There's nothing wrong with that. Being gay is not a mental illness or anything associated with like 5 other serious mental disorders. This is all.
Yeah, once again, not taking a lecture on mental disorders from you. Because you clearly are a sociopath and you clearly have some deeply suppressed fucking urges that you could explore in a far more healthy fashion. But instead of doing that, you'd rather get on YouTube and do a cretinous rant about how everybody that you don't like should be arrested.
No one ever said that people who we don't like should be arrested. We said that people who sexually abuse children should be arrested.
We don't give a flying fuck if you dress up like women. We could do whatever the fuck you want. But if you involve kids, you're gonna get trouble. That's just how it is. And you cannot win this battle, so don't try.
But also, why ought Grifter embrace the aspects of himself that you think he possesses? Again, you're presenting a ton of moral directives for society to follow, but you have yet to provide a rationale for why society should follow those directives.
Fancy living, here we come.
It was always about destroying any semblance of innocence and humanity. Any inch given to the acceptance of any of this degenerate LGBTQ bullshit, it's all in servitude of the final goal, which is, they want to touch kids. They would like to grope your children. I don't want to have to say that, but it's true.
First of all, you don't have to say it. You choose to say it.
Who cares?
Second of all, it's not true. It's just self-serving bullshit that plays into a very pitiful agenda that ultimately just tethers back to your own psychosexual inadequacies.
Meanwhile,
even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
Again, TJ, you cannot deny that the end goal of proponents of the LGBT movement is to normalize pedophilia when you yourself are on record saying that parents should be allowed to sexually abuse their children. Sorry, but this moralizing bullshit falls apart when you consider that context.
Fancy living, here we come.
TJ, it's a 16-year-old cringe lord. Why are you wasting your time debating a young cuck-servative lol? The thing I like about this guy is that he's too dumb to be mask on.
You and him share that in common, TJ.
He's too dumb to know that there's a reason that the other conservatives all around YouTube don't just come out and say this shit.
That must be why he had nearly 8,000 subscribers by the time he released this video.
The reason they don't say it is, one, it doesn't win. People hear this and they see through it as bullshit. Two, it is very easy to argue against. Case in point, the masterclass I just laid out for your fucking bitch ass.
Ha! There's no lie in the past 40 minutes that's as blatant as this one. TJ, I can count on one hand the number of actually valid criticisms that you've made of Nuclear Grifter, and most of them have to do with his production skills, which have no bearing on the validity of his arguments. Shut the fuck up, you didn't debunk shit, you're a retard.
Third, it just sounds heinous and disgusting and nobody fucking likes you when you say that kind of shit.
That must be why Nuclear Grifter's follow-up response to you has nearly 2,000 likes.
Oops.
Fancy living, here we we come.
Charlie Montaigne gave $10. Says, is it weird to me that a guy like this talks so much about degeneracy and immorality when 67 years ago his hair alone would get him labeled a degenerate? Yeah, I think it is pretty ironic, and I noticed that irony, but amongst all of the dumb shit that he said, it almost didn't even seem worth mentioning. But I'm kind of glad you did put that forth, because it is true and it is a legitimate point.
According to whom? First off, you're just throwing this claim out there without proof, which I thought you were against. Second off, just because we're engaging in provably innocuous things that half a century ago we would have been called degenerates for, does not render our criticisms of things that are provably beyond the pale invalid. Sexually abusing children was bad in the 50s and 60s, and it's bad now. Case closed.
If I arrest child predators who prance around half naked in front of 5-year-olds, that
child predators, eh? It's crazy how brazen
those are child predators.
Child predators have gotten, you know? Because it seems like there's like a...
Yeah, it is crazy, because they're allowed to do this shit in public. You're seeing it happen right now. Take a fucking look. This guy is so relativity poisoned, he can't see this for what it is.
Bunch of adults there right now. Wait, did you just throw a fucking little... Just throw a little catchphrase at me? Relativity poison. You throw a little buzzword my way. Never heard that one. Relativity hyphen, I assume. Poisoned. Okay. I mean, once again, let's bring up your haircut, because the very same sort of prudish morality that you are using to condemn these people would have once been used to condemn your haircut. And make no mistake about it, the haircut you have is femme-coded.
You'll notice that TJ didn't actually provide a response to Grifter's point, which was that trying to ground reality around what the majority of people think is acceptable is stupid. He instead just went, oh yeah? Well, back in the 60s, you would have been seen as degenerate for having femme-coded hair. Like, you aren't refuting the point, dummy. You're just appealing to the thing in question.
Fancy living, here we come.
Kids here and have like decided like, yes, this is appropriate for my kids, in the same way that plenty of people have decided that this is appropriate for their kids.
Yeah, because gays can't adopt children and then bring them to drag shows, right? Because the fact that they're adults...
I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. It seems like it's trying to refute like a totally separate point. I don't know if you actually have the comprehension skills to ascertain what the fuck I'm talking about from moment to moment. But yeah, gays can adopt kids, and gays can, I guess, take them to drag shows, but so can straight people. And, you know, just like you could take your kids to go see the fucking waitresses at Hooters, or go see the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, or go see any fucking rated R movie that might have even full nudity in it.
Finally! After 15 minutes of meaningless bullshit, TJ has finally offered a cogent rebuttal. That being said, whether or not parents can do these things with their kids is, ironically enough, irrelevant to the question of ought they be able to do these things with their kids. So even when TJ is right, he's still wrong.
You know, like when I was a kid, my dad took me to see the movie Seven. Like, you have any idea how age inappropriate the movie Seven was for me?
Well, sounds like you had a shitty father then.
And yet he was allowed to do it because it's rated R, which means, yeah, you should probably have some adult accompaniment.
And guess what? Not only am I for barring parents from being able to take their kids to R-rated movies, but if you posed this conundrum to Nuclear Grifter, he would also be for barring that. So, what argument are you trying to make here exactly?
There was plenty of R-rated movies with tits and ass and all kinds of things, and yet we don't care if a parent takes their kids to that. I've been to some pretty fucking intense R-rated stuff and seen little kids there watching. I went and saw the movie Violent Night not too long ago, and there was a dude who brought like a fucking 10-year-old girl to that shit. Like his 10-year-old daughter watching Santa Claus, butcher people.
Once again, just because the majority of society has deemed something morally acceptable does not mean that the thing in question actually is morally acceptable. And there being adults that make horrible parenting decisions also doesn't make the thing in question morally acceptable.
And even I was kind of like, is that really age appropriate for this kid?
The fact that you even had that thought validates my entire argument.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
But you know what? That's not my fucking decision to make. That's his decision as a father. Just like it'd be his decision if he thinks it's appropriate that the fucking cheerleaders are scantily clad or the drag queen has their butt hanging out.
But, why should it be their decision to make? These parents being their kid's primary caretaker does not give them carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want to them. Otherwise, we'd never set up organizations to combat child trafficking or child sex abuse.
And as long as it doesn't cross a certain line, which I don't think that any of this stuff crosses, I don't think it's up for society to intervene. I think something has to be getting pretty out of hand before the government gets involved. Before the government's like, okay, yeah, this has gone too far.
TJ, you already said that even if the conservative perception of this event was correct, and this was indeed child abuse, that it should still be up to the parents to put their children through it.
Even if these parents are totally wrong, and this show is not appropriate for kids at all, even if you agree with that completely, shouldn't that still be up to the fucking parents to decide?
So no, even if drag queens were doing something that crossed your dumb fuck line, you would still defend the right of parents to subject their children to it. Stop pretending as though you didn't say that.
But like someone shaking their butt, that's not far enough. Sorry.
I refer you to my last point.
And legal guardians of these children absolves them from being wrong. It absolves them from effectively being criminals. Fascinating argument.
And they're not, they're just not criminals. Like, it doesn't absolve them of being criminals. They're just not criminals.
And what's the argument against them being criminals, TJ? I'd love to hear it sometime soon.
You can't just, declare by fiat that this is a crime.
Yes, we can.
It's not. Shaking your butt is not a crime.
It is when you do it in a revealing outfit in front of children.
Seems like a bunch of adults decided, hey, this is fine for my kids, I don't care. It seems like that's not really predation at that point. That's just people making a decision about what kind of content their kids are allowed to consume.
If you showed all 4 of those pictures to any parents around the world, 99% of them...
No, you don't get... Okay, on top of sneaking by shady premises and garbage statistics and fucking garbage arguments, you're not going to now make up the results of some phony baloney fucking goddamn poll that you never actually conducted and just tell me man, if you did this poll, what you discover is, no, you actually have to do the fucking poll. You can't just make up the results of a poll that never happened and then use it to bolster your argument.
TJ, your entire defense for what these parents did is that they consented to doing it. You cannot chastise someone for relying on phony statistics for their argument when your argument relies on faulty logic. Get that through your thick fucking skull. And with that, we are finally done with Amazing Atheist's video. It was painful, and I almost lost my sanity a few times, but we have officially survived it. Before I can close out this video, I need to present y'all with my final thoughts. So let's knock that out real quick.
Jesus tap dancing Christ, this was a terrible response video. Like, I thought that TJ's initial response to Michael Knowles was bad, but his response to Nuclear Grifter makes that video look like a fucking masterpiece worthy of being displayed in an art museum. I mean, come on, say what you will about TJ's response to Michael Knowles, but at least it mostly consisted of arguments. They weren't particularly strong arguments, but at least he spent the majority of his time actually attempting to address Michael's concerns. In his response to Nuclear Grifter, however, most of what TJ does is just double down on the bullshit talking points he gave to Michael while going on these long-winded tangents about how much smarter and tougher he is than his opponent. It's actually quite fascinating just how badly TJ dropped the ball here. Even the few valid criticisms he did give Grifter don't debunk the broader point he and Michael both made, which was that what the drag queen did to those kids was fucking disgusting, and that sort of behavior should be outlawed. The worst part about all of this is that even if you were willing to look past all of those mistakes, there are still parts of this video where TJ just ignored, misconstrued, or straight up lied about the things Nuclear Grifter said. Worse still, I don't even agree with everything Grifter said in his first response to TJ, and I think that both of his videos, while generally being fine, are riddled with weak and objectionable points, some of which I've pointed out throughout this commentary. However, even despite Grifter bringing surface-level talking points to the stage, he was still able to run logical circles around TJ's positions. I don't think there's any more damning of an indictment for TJ's intelligence than that. I don't know, man. It's just depressing watching someone whom you used to look up to twist themselves into a pretzel to defend something as vile as child grooming. Let this be a warning that this is what will happen to you if you ever become a leftist.
If you want to watch Nuclear Grifter's response to TJ's call-out, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. As for the rest of y'all, I'm Alex a Critic, and it continues to astound me how, of the 3 YouTubers who inspired me to start making videos in the first place, those being the Nostalgia Critic, the Mysterious Mr. Enter, and the Amazing Atheist, Doug Walker is the only one who I still have any amount of respect for. God truly does work in mysterious ways. I'll see you guys next time.